Alright guys, it's Sunday. Got a little bit bored and thought it might be interesting to try out some of the new functions in Eagle Tree Vector software 12.6. So go ahead and connect up your quad, double click on the Vector software, and this is what will pop up. You guys are, I'm sure, familiar with this. Click over on the one that says Waypoint Setup, and you have to agree to all this stuff. So basically anything that goes wrong on the planet Earth today, you have to agree that it's your fault. So click I agree, and there you go. Now, when this first pops up, it looks like Google Earth. It's everything on Earth. Just basically zoom in on the area that you're interested in. And the first thing as you get close is you notice this white circle. And that's a 1 mile geofence. Your quad won't be able to fly any further than that. And that's on purpose. That's a safety measure. If you fly airplanes or you fly your quads more than a mile away, go ahead and click on this box right here, and it will go away. All the safeties for altitude and distance are now removed. But because I'm lazy and when I crash I don't like to walk more than a mile, I'm going to go ahead and leave my circle up. When you go ahead and zoom in, this is actually the old Vint Hill Farms. It's an old military base. It's now been taken over by a commercial company. They're developing it. I have permission to fly in pretty much this entire area. I'm going to limit my flight to this field again when it crashes because I don't have a lot of faith in this new system. I don't want to have to walk too far. You see a bunch of plots up here, and these are all different types of waypoints. Now, I've already loaded this up, obviously. Creating a waypoint is very easy. You just, let's say we want one on that power substation right there. Just place your cursor above it or even zoom in further. Say I want to fly right above that transformer and just click, and a new waypoint will then appear. Nothing to it. It's really very easy. I don't want that waypoint, so we are going to delete waypoint 10 and just stick with what we have here. All right, let's talk about these and discuss the experiment just a little bit. This one marked home is actually my waypoint number 1. So I generally park my car right in here, some of this little pull-out area, and I take the quad off from the asphalt right about there. According to the instructions, you can have the quad land at a different place than from where it took off. So I'm going to land it, it's about 30-40 feet away in the grass. That way if it does auger in, it augers into grass and not into asphalt. I think it'd be kind of cool to be able to fly a mission and have it land somewhere completely different from where it took off. And we're going to check to see if that's possible. That was waypoint 1. Waypoint 2 is right here, and that's a normal waypoint. So there you go. Waypoint 1 I set as home, and then waypoint 2 is a normal waypoint. Right after waypoint 2, you'll notice waypoint 3 is something called ROI. That's kind of interesting. So I created a ROI, a region of interest right here. And in the middle of this field, there's a bunch of small trees. And what will happen when you identify ROI is that your quad will face towards it. From that point in the command forward, it'll face it. So as my quad proceeds from 2 to 4 to 5, all the way around the circle, it's going to continue to point right there at ROI 3. Kind of cool if you're doing aerial photography of a house or a wedding or something like that. It allows you to not have to worry about keeping the quad oriented. All you need to worry about is the pan and tilt of your camera. It takes a load off of you, the operator. Now I'm not going to have too high of a risk today. I'm using a fairly inexpensive quad, a QAV 400, and it has no gimbal on it. I'm simply going to strap a GoPro to it. So there's going to be some vibrations. I just want to see if this really works. I'm going to go through all these waypoints, and now when you get down here, waypoint 8 is right in front of where I took off. This command directly after that is called return to home. Now let's talk about these waypoints for a minute. You have a lot of options. If you click on them, there's a little drop down. So I've already discussed ROI. Your quad can now actually take off by itself. I'm not going to do that. It's an experiment for another day. I am going to have it land and disarm when it comes back to the other home, the one I've identified. I want to see if that works. There's something called a delay. So if I go to any of these waypoints, let's say I want to take an extended photography session from point number 5, I can have him delay there for any number of seconds. And he'll just hang in, just like loitering right there. I'll just take all the photography that I want. There's one called jump, and that's kind of a logic sequence. So what will happen is I'm flying this route, and when it gets to point 8, I can put a jump command. and it would say if you have more than 1500 milliamp hours, jump to point number 2. The logic being, if you don't have more than 1500 milliamp hours, go to step 9 and finish your flight. So very cool new command there. We have return to home. I'm going to use that one, and we have a brand new command called change speed. Right now it will fly at the speed that you have identified on your safety page for your normal configuration, and I think mine is 30 kilometers an hour. If I want to loiter, go very slowly from point 2 to point 4, I can do that. And then if I insert a command after point 4, a change speed command, I can have him go blazingly fast for the rest of it if I want to. I have an experiment again. That's an experiment for another day. The only thing different about your ROI, you notice all these say yaw, yaw, yaw. It's going to be yawing towards the ROI. This one has a location. Now, if you leave it to next waypoint, it becomes a normal waypoint. You won't see it anymore. You have to designate that as a location for the camera, for the quad to orient itself towards. So very cool. When we get to point number 9, it's going to return to home, and then you have option, you can land it or not land it. I said go ahead and try to land it, see what happens. I'm very curious what's going to happen at the end of after the end of number 8. So here's how we're going to play it. I will go out and park right about there. I'll take the quad off from there, and I'll move him out here into the middle of the field, roughly around point number 8. I'll place him in loiter mode until he gets stabilized, and then the fateful moment, I will click the waypoint switch to begin navigating waypoints, and we will see what's going to happen with this. Anyway, fellas, let's load everything in the car and get on out to Vint Hill. All right, guys, we're at the flying field at that little parking cutoff. I got some strobes, might be easier to pick it up. Very bright today, but maybe that'll help us see it when we fly it. Here's the field. It should go straight ahead. I'm going to hit the waypoint, and then it will rotate to the left, and then basically go around the field along that far tree line, keeping that little clump of bushes right there. That is the region of interest, if you remember when we set this up. And then he'll fly right back in front of us, and then come to home, and right behind us in the little pull-out area of the parking area. Let's see if we can get this thing to work. All right, guys, he's in loiter mode. I am now clicking to waypoint flag go. He just pointed towards the region of interest, and there he goes. All right, I thought it'd be best to start the tour from the FPV camera view. This was recorded through my goggles. So I had a couple of unexpected things happen, but I'll tell you right up front, everything turned out really for the best. I took off in 2DH hold, and just moved it above the grass, just like we discussed. And then once I got it there, I placed it in loiter. Now it's kind of jerky because yesterday the wind was gusting to up to 15 miles an hour. So you're going to notice as we go through this, the camera kind of tilting a little bit as the quad kind of turns into the wind. This first thing that happened, you notice I just turned it to waypoint, and it did not come crashing to the ground, so thank goodness. But it was totally unexpected, because right away the quad started pointing towards that clump of bushes in the center, which was the region of interest. When I wrote the program, it really wasn't supposed to do that until after it went to the first waypoint. I can't explain why it did it, but again, at least it didn't come tumbling down to the ground. As we're going through this, we made it to the first waypoint, which was waypoint 2. Waypoint 3, if you recall, is originally the region of interest in the middle, that clump that's just above the east marker in the center of the screen. And we're moving to waypoint number 4. The altitude is supposed to be 18 meters. You can see on the top right we're at 19 meters. That's close enough. One of the big surprises is that my ground speed during return to home and waypoint navigation is supposed to be 30 kilometers an hour. And I was quite surprised to see that it's much, much slower than I think the peak speed that I reached for this entire route was around 8 or 10 kilometers an hour. Not very fast at all. And I think the reason for that is because the waypoints are very small places in space that the quad has to pass through in order to get credit for hitting the waypoint. I think if you enlarge that, and I believe you can do it inside of the software, and say maybe make the waypoint say 5 meters across, be much easier for the quad to hit it, and it will progress a little more smoothly through each of those waypoints. All right, we're on the back side. Just behind us is that big row of trees. So far, it's doing a really good job of keeping that ROI, the region of interest, pretty much centered in the screen. As we start moving to the left here, we're going to be the wind is coming from the left. So you're going to start to see the quad kind of buck around a little bit, and it'll also start turning, angling to the left. There we go, right there. Now it's banking into the wind. Of course, if we had a gimbal, we wouldn't have to worry too much about that. Just a little bit on the screen, in the center, just below east at the bottom there, you have link quality. And of course, I'm only 282 meters away, so I would hope that it would be 99 or 100%. The distance is center on the very top, and the little arrow points towards home. So in the very distance in that clearing, you can see 2 cars there. And that's my buddy and I, our cars where we're flying this thing from. Again, you see it's angling pretty strongly to the left to go against the wind. Doing a good job. Bottom left corner, you see we got 18 satellites. I have the V2 antenna, which I think I've had up to 20 satellites. Just an amazing number of tracking satellites. And of course on the left side is the speed. We're down to 1 kilometer an hour again, which tells me we're probably approaching another waypoint, and he's struggling to fly through it. There we go. He just flew through it, and now he's going to move to waypoint 7. See that on the very top? Just above the timer on the top left is where all your messages will appear. And then just below that timer, we've been flying for 4 minutes and 18 seconds. You can see it. We're in waypoint mode right now. That'll tell you the mode of flight. In the center of the screen, you can actually see the waypoints themselves. We have gone through anything that's green. It means we've already gone through it, and I believe yellow recommends is the next one that we're headed towards, and purple is unfulfilled. Let's see, in the top right, we have the number of milliamp hours burned, 1400 at this point, and I'm running 2500 milliamp battery. Under load, you're looking right at 14 volts. That's under load. When we drop the load off of it, it'll be much higher than that. Again, you can see we're pretty close to that region of interest. It's, again, right almost dead center, so this thing is doing a fantastic job of keeping that centered in the screen. Again, we've dropped down during the course. We were up to, I think, up to 30 meters high. We're back down to 18 and starting to come down. Okay, we just passed through that last waypoint, and we're heading for the final waypoint, number 8. I got another surprise here as we pass by number 8, but I'm going to save that. Notice the icon top right on the milliamp hours is starting to change colors on me, letting me know that getting to that point. On the top left, at the current consumption rate, you see that little timer with the R. Tells me I have 7 minutes of flight left. Okay, we've just hit the last waypoint, and now it's actually backing up. I did not expect that. I kind of expected it to orient itself towards home when he turned there, but for some reason he's just not doing that. I also expected him to go to my return to home altitude, which for me is 40 meters. He didn't do that either. He stayed with the last programmed altitude, which was 18 meters, and then he stayed oriented towards the target while he backed up to the appointed home spot, and then lowered himself down to the ground. So did a great job. Totally unexpected, but I am not disappointed in any way. As long as you remember to tell it when it comes home, tell him what the new altitude is, I think you'll be fine. Anyway, let me end this, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is a great new feature on the Eagle Tree Vector.
Slow down, buddy. Slow down, slow down. Okay.
Impact.
Yep.
Okay. And
Sorry.
where's the radio?
Radio.
Right where I left it laying. Never touched it.
There you go. Right. Observe.
All right. Success.